How you doing, Bigger Pockets? Jamil Damji here, and in this video series, we're going to talk about how real estate investors can pivot in the down market. Guys, there's no point in denying the fact that the real estate market has absolutely shifted, and it's shifted in a dramatic way. A lot of people call June 13th D-Day. That's the day that the market really went into a complete standstill, where buyers have been sitting on the sidelines and sellers have been waiting for their properties to sell. So how can you, as a real estate investor, take advantage of and participate in this market shift? Before we talk about the strategies on how you can buy deep, let's just look at some market fundamentals. Now, I love to use Phoenix, Arizona as the poster child for the mood swings that the real estate market can go through, because truly it showed us how far a market can fall in the Great Recession of 2008, and it has shown us how much a market can rebound at the peak of the market in May of 2022. So that's why I think it's a great market to look at, so we can see the mood swings of the real estate market. First, let's take a look at the two differences, right? In 2008, at the height of the recession, we saw roughly 60,000 listings on the MLS for properties in Phoenix. Right now, when every would-be seller had rushed into the market to put their property on the MLS to take advantage of the high prices, we still only have roughly 20,000 listings on the MLS. That's a dramatic difference in numbers. The second thing I want to point out is that in 2008, we had very poor lending standards. You can remember those products where they would say, if you had a pulse, you could get a mortgage. They called a lot of those products the ninja loans: no income, no job, no assets, get a loan. Today, we have extremely strict lending practices thanks to the Dodd-Frank Act that really made borrowers have to jump through a lot of hoops and prove that they could financially take care of their properties. That means that we're going to have far fewer properties in free fall, because the people who actually own them can afford to keep them, so they don't really have to walk away. The next thing I want to look at is that in 2008, because so many people had second, third, and fourth homes, and because they were just letting those properties go and walking away from them, we went into a free fall in pricing. Right now, we don't have a free fall, we have a price freeze. So sellers have equity, they're not super desperate, although some of them that need to sell will actually be very motivated, but prices have been freezing. Now, we have seen some slight corrections here in Phoenix, Arizona. We've seen roughly 10%, but back then in 2008, we saw prices drop 90%. I mean, that's a huge difference compared to what we're seeing right now. And then lastly, guys, even though they're both buyers markets, how you approach these types of properties is going to be very different in 2022 than what you were seeing in 2008. So let's talk a little bit about how we can approach a homeowner, or how we can approach buying deep in today's market. So now we want to buy deep. We need to identify where we're going to find these opportunities. First and foremost, typically investors, we've had a couple of options on where we can pick up properties. You either can buy a property off market, or you can look for a property on market. Now, usually investors would have a lot more desire for off-market properties. But in today's climate, if you go to off-market sellers, they may be looking for completely unrealistic numbers because they're lacking the motivation necessary to actually want to list the property and sell it. So right now, I'm finding the best buying opportunities actually on market. These are people who have not only expressed desire to want to sell, but they've actually given the listing to an agent to sell the property. Go figure. You think these people have motivation? I would say so. They put the property on the market. It's for sale. They're motivated. So if you're trying to figure out how much you want to buy or what to offer a seller for a property right now, I'm actually looking at 2017 as my guide. Remember, guys, I said buy deep. All right, that means we can go back and look at some of the listing history. We can look at some of the pricing back all the way from 2017 to see where would this property have sold in 2017. I'm gonna try to buy these houses as deep as I can. Now, a lot of the people that are selling their properties right now, they have a tremendous amount of equity. So if they're gonna make a deal with you to sell the property at a price and what it would have been worth in 2017, they're still gonna be able to walk away with a substantial amount of money and pay not only the listing agent, but a buyer's agent if you decide to bring one to the table. I don't recommend it, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. Now, we know the MLS is a great place to look for on-market properties. So what type of properties am I looking for on the MLS? Well, first and foremost, days on market is extremely important. I'm only looking at properties that are been on the market for 30, 60, or 90 days or longer. This shows me time stress. This means that a seller has put their property on the market and it's still available after a month, 2 months, or 3 months. The likelihood that this seller has an extreme amount of motivation is extremely high. This is why you want to find properties listed on the MLS that have been on there for 30, 60, 90 days or longer. The next thing I want to look at is the listing description. Now, this is where the real estate agent writes a description on what the property is. But there's also a lot of clues in a listing description. Oftentimes, the agent will inadvertently put in motivating language. They might say seller highly motivated, or they might say the seller is willing to offer concessions. This indicates to you that the seller is willing to trade equity, or they're willing to trade money in order to get the sale done. This is an extremely important signal to look at because it shows you that this seller is distressed. They really need to sell, and you could actually give them a low offer, and there's a chance that they might even take it. The next thing I want to look at is the listing history. Now, this is why I think the listing history is really important. If you're looking at anybody who's listed a property in the last little while, if they actually went under contract at a high price, there's not a good chance that you're going to be able to buy this property at a low price. You see, the seller has an unrealistic benchmark set right now because somebody put the house under contract at a really high price. Now, the market has been steadily depreciating, and the seller just may not be emotionally available to accept a low number because they had the chance to sell it at a higher price and it never went through. Getting and breaking through that emotional barrier is extremely difficult. Instead, what I'm looking for are properties that have been listed on the market but have not gone under contract yet. But you can see evidence of steady decreases in price. This shows you that the seller is realistic. They understand that the property is going to need to go lower and lower in price in order for a trade to happen. Now, because buyers right now are sitting on the sidelines and they're not making any offers, so many sellers are still just steadily decreasing their prices way below what the property is actually worth just in order to solicit a buyer. That's why I think there's a really big opportunity in looking for properties that have this evidence, steady decreasing in price. And then the last thing that I want to look at for a property that's listed on the MLS are the pictures. I'm looking for empty closets and staging. Why would I be looking for that? Well, guys, if you see a house that's lived in, they've got clothes in the closet, you can see furniture that's obviously the homeowners, that means they're still living there. So that means that the seller really doesn't have to sell. If they can stay, they'll stay. I want a house where a seller has already left. So if the closets are empty, and if they're staging furniture, and you can typically tell what's staging versus actual homeowner furniture. Staging furniture is very knick-knacky. It's got wild colors, and sometimes it doesn't even match the vibe of the house. It's just there. So you want to try to look for evidence of staging in empty closets because that means that the seller has already moved. If the seller has already moved, they're very likely paying a mortgage on 2 homes, or they're paying rent on their second home and a mortgage on the first. So it's a financial hardship. They're ready to let that payment go. That means that they might actually be willing to trade some of their equity for the convenience of a sale right now. And they may be willing to take a price that the house would have sold at back in 2017. Now that we have all of this in mind, the next thing we want to understand is how do we have this conversation with a real estate agent so that we can get them to help us buy deep. For this part, I'm going to need a baby. Baby me. Yes. All right. So we are talking to a real estate agent, and there's 4 steps that I want you to take into consideration when you're having a conversation with an agent. First and foremost, make sure you're talking to the listing agent. The reason why you want to work directly with a listing agent is because there's 3% commission up for grabs. The listing agent may decide to double end that. The listing agent might decide to give that 3% back to the seller. So whatever they decide to do, there's leverage there. So you always want to go directly to the listing agent. Now, in having that conversation, you want to find alignment. That means positioning yourself on the side of the real estate agent. Getting combative in these conversations is not the way to go about it, right? Monday, you don't want to fight with people, you want to be friends with people, right? Exactly. So, how do you become or find alignment with a real estate agent? Well, first, be their friend. Comment on things that you guys might both be experiencing right now. Like, the market is pretty crazy, isn't it? If you can find something that you can resonate with or find alignment with on the agent, you'll be able to build better rapport. The second thing you want to do is play your position. Buyers with cash who can close fast with either cash or hard money are a premium right now, right? If you've got the money to close fast, you'll be able to get a better deal. So play that position. Understand that you have an advantage, just like Monday says. You have an advantage and you can actually get a deal under contract and make you and the buyer's agent or the baby happy. Number 3, ask questions. The more questions you ask, the more information you're going to be able to get. Sometimes you just have to ask one question and let them talk. And then the 4th thing is, if you get an immediate rejection, follow up. Follow up, follow up, follow up, follow up. You never know. It could be a week, 2 weeks, or even a month later. But that lower offer that you presented to an agent might just be the thing that makes them scream today. So if you like this video, guys, like and subscribe. And we're going to be doing another 4 videos on how to make money in a down market. Right, Monday? We got this.